This week on Gymwright Live, we interview Heather Hartmann of Box Pro Magazine, as well as the BoxTalk podcast, for a lesson in content creation. For all of you listening to this via the audio-only podcast, be sure to head over to facebook.com/Gymwright to check out the video version of this interview. Now, if you're watching the show on Facebook right now and you do not see the little red light in the top corner of the screen, then you're watching the replay. So the first thing I want you to do is type the word join in the comments below so you can get access to the network, which is our free private Facebook group for the motivated gym owners of the world, where you will find tons of great conversations, interviews, and step-by-step how-tos of some of the most effective strategies out there for gym owners today. By the way, this will also get you our free 2019 Gym Sales and Marketing Planner, not to mention our new weekly live gym business Q&A hosted by yours truly, where you and other gym owners can ask me anything that you like and I answer it for you in real time. It's a ton of fun. I hope to see you on there. Anyway, again, type the word join now so you can get access to all this awesome stuff, and that way you can start taking your gym owner game to the next level right now. All right, let's get this party started. Hello and welcome to this week's episode of Gymwright Live. I'm your host, Marcus Guerzi, and this week we welcome to the show special guest, Heather Hartmann. Heather is an editor at Box Pro Magazine, as well as the host of the BoxTalk podcast, which I'm sure all of you have already heard of. Heather, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Marcus. Great to be here. And yes, if you haven't already heard of it, go check it out. It's awesome.
I completely agree. Now, today we're going to be talking about content creation and really just how gym owners can create better content more frequently and really just even understand how to make the most of the opportunity that is content. So before we get into that stuff though, Heather, tell us a little bit about yourself and your journey.
Well, my journey began many moons ago, but fast forwarding from that point, because we don't need to go back that far. It's interesting because I never thought I'd be here today, sitting here talking to gym owners. Let's just say that. I was not a fitness person. I wasn't into health. I was far from it. I got to the point where the doctor was like, you could probably lose some weight and be healthier. And that was because I went through college, became a journalist, and really did not take care of myself in college. And prior to that, I had been injured, and basically this whole path led me down to this place of where, I was doing what I loved, writing, which I think I've really always loved, but I was just not really well, but I didn't know it. And so when I started to come to graduation and wanted to figure out what to do with the rest of my life, which I knew was journalism, but if you are a journalist, it is hard to get a job. Always, I think, after college, even far after college, just always. And so I actually was looking for a final internship to just kind of kick me off and give me a little bit more credibility once I did graduate. And I found this random company called Peak Media in Louisville, Kentucky, of all places. And I lived in Michigan at the time, and I didn't really want to go to Kentucky. I had this stereotype of it, and it's like, oh, great. But they were the only ones that accepted me, so I had to go.
Here I come, Kentucky.
It was sold, and then my friends started sending me like all these facts about Louisville and how they have more original restaurants and days of the year and all of that. So I was like, okay, I guess I got to go. So I went and I interned, and they happened to be a media company with business, health, and fitness magazines, super niche. And I remember my parents specifically asking me, Heather, you aren't into health or wellness or fitness. How are you going to write about that? And I was like, guys, a good journalist can write about anything. And so I dove headfirst in, didn't know anything about business. They trained me up, they educated me, and just so happened that as I joined, they were launching a magazine for CrossFit affiliate owners. And I had never heard of CrossFit, but being someone who had just come into the company, thought it'd be a great opportunity and potential for me to really come on board with that new magazine, hopefully maybe work up one day to editor, which, yay, I succeeded, and all of that. So dove headfirst into that and realized, I should maybe go check out a CrossFit gym. Walked into a CrossFit gym to do a video about their mother's class. It was for women who I think had given birth to those who had like 2-year-olds. So it was like postpartum, basically. And I remember talking to the owner, and he found out I didn't do CrossFit, and he was like, that's dumb. You should do it. Literally said that to me. He was like, that is dumb. You should do it if you write for a CrossFit magazine or a magazine for CrossFit affiliate owners. I was like, yeah, you're right. Well, and he's a salesperson. Most of you gym owners are probably salespeople in one respect or another. Sold me on the gym. And 5 years later, I am still at that gym. I'm still at Peak Media. I'm running Box Pro. I love fitness. I have physically transformed, mentally transformed, and I can't believe the wealth of knowledge I have on gym ownership and how much I actually enjoy talking about it and writing about it.
Awesome. Yeah, what an incredible story. You really had no intention of necessarily getting as deep as you are now into this field, but I mean, just having been following your content in Box Pro for years at this point, you guys do a phenomenal job, and I think you guys are actually very in tune with what is happening on the scene today. So awesome work.
Thank you.
So okay, so before we get into all the different aspects of content creation and specifically how gym owners can make the most of their strategy, help us define what you even mean, or what does content mean, or a content strategy. What is a content strategy?
Yeah, so I think when we say the word content, I would say generally it just means things that you're producing out of your own knowledge and expertise. So, and that content comes in a wide range of forums, and we're going to talk about some of those, but there's so many modalities that you can produce content in, and it can look so different. So when we're talking about a content strategy, we're specifically saying, how are we going to bring all those different pieces together into one thing that's in sync throughout the whole process? Because, if you're just producing content over here, then over here, and then over here, and it's not connecting, then it's going to just get lost in the shuffle. Versus if you had a broad strategy, something that connects all these different pieces in all these different areas, it's going to be a lot louder. It's going to be a lot more impactful, because people are going to kind of be able to follow these strands back to the source, which is hopefully you, your website, your knowledge, your expertise, kind of like Box Pro. We have different content in different areas, social media, website, podcasts, but they all have the same message. They all have the same focus, and we plan it out.
Sure.
I can't tell you how valuable planning is. So in a nutshell, that's how I would kind of describe content and content strategy and how that looks.
Awesome. Thank you. Yeah, it's oftentimes when we're working with our clients, and we, part of what we do in the Foundations program is creating their entire content calendar, their whole annual strategy for content, to make sure that their gym actually has a voice and is telling a story, rather than, I know I'm supposed to post something every day, so they just find something random to post, which is obviously better than nothing. Because at least you have a presence and people are seeing you, and it's repetition is a little bit of it. But I think more importantly, it's about having a story, and that is going to speak to not only your existing community, but also those potential ideal clients, right? You want to find that middle line of where it's going to be relevant to your existing members. It's going to make them feel like they're a part of something that's important, right? Something that is doing something and is saying something. And then also that's going to appeal to the potential ideal client who's like, hey, that resonates with me. I want to get more involved, or I want to learn more about this, which is obviously when you have a story worth telling or worth listening to, then it's going to pull people in, and it's going to create opportunities on all fronts, right? So not just building the brand, but even can be direct lead generation just through good organic content.
Yeah. And content strategy takes a lot of effort, not going to lie. I know we've learned that because we, for a while there, we did not adequately plan out content, in the sense of we'd look at yearly, and we'd look at different things for like the printed publications that we have, but we weren't looking digitally. And it's just been the past 6 months that we've really implemented this deep dive into this content strategy of planning out specifically day to day what's going on the website, what's going on social media, and it has revolutionized all of our brands at Peak, including Box Pro. And it's amazing once you know that story, and then you know how you're going to tell that story on a daily basis, what kind of impact that can have. And it takes a lot of work, but it's been super successful to strategize and have that thinking throughout that whole time.
Awesome. Yeah, agreed. It's always a whole series of light bulbs that typically goes off for the gym owners that we work with when they connect the dots and they understand that it isn't just random. There's a method to the madness, and that, yeah, it takes work. It takes some serious thought in initially putting it together, but it's really not that complicated once you understand how it works, because most gym owners have a lot to say. There's a lot of knowledge and a lot of unique culture and style that they bring to their community, that if you just, even if it's just regurgitating the information that you've learned as a coach around nutrition, around training, around motivation, mobility, and all these things, and you just are able to do it through your voice to the right type of person on the other end consistently, and you just map that out with just a simple process, it can completely, like you said, revolutionize the brand and make it come to life, when even just maybe a few weeks ago it felt kind of dead in the water and it all looks the same, right? Because everyone is starting to look the same on social media. And I think that, when it comes to standing out in a sea of same, right, to potential members, you're going to stand out when you have something to say. And it sounds like you guys are doing something and it's different. And it's really resonating with a particular type of person rather than just what everyone else is doing. So,
Yeah.
Okay. So what would you say are the most important first steps to go through when someone first starts creating content? Where do we begin?
Well, best place to begin is to just do it first off, because I think a lot of times people are like, oh, I just don't know. And they just kind of stumble along and they never quite execute. So first off, just start creating content. Like, even if you're not quite sure how to push it out there, just start creating it, because oftentimes that's the first hurdle I see. Someone's like, oh, does someone really want to read my blog? Do I really want to have to spend that time working on a social media post? Just do it. So that's the first important step. Just kind of believing in yourself a little bit and just diving right in. I think the second step then is to really kind of solidify, like what you were saying. What's your story? What story you're trying to tell? What story you're trying to get across? What is your message, your mission, your core values, and how do you want to incorporate those into all of your content? So execute, and then understand what your story is, really kind of understand that message and that mission that you're trying to tell. And then I would say after that, figure out what modalities, what different avenues you're going to take to produce that content. And that can change over time. I would say maybe pick a couple, whether that's a blog and maybe a social media channel, or really focusing on your website and Facebook, whatever that may be. But pick a few and then really dive into those with knowing your story and executing on both. And then once you become awesome at those, then maybe add in some more. So I think it's easy to get overwhelmed by trying to do it all at once, but don't try to do too much at once. So yeah, those are probably my first 3 tips, is just start executing, figure out your story, what you want to tell, and then figure out where you want to do this and how you want to do it. And not necessarily in that order, but those are the 3 kind of initial steps I think someone should take.
Now, what about the people who are maybe a little bit hesitant or gun shy to start, for example, writing? A lot of the feedback I get from people when we first broach the subject of content creation is, I'm really not that confident as a writer. And, am I really supposed to blog every day or blog every week? I barely have time to clean the bathrooms at my gym, let alone sit down and spend, a half a day or something, putting together something that I'm proud of. What would you say to that person?
Yeah, for sure. So I think first off, that content, it doesn't even just have to be writing. So if maybe you're not a great writer, you're like, oh, it takes me forever to write 400 words, which is like a typical length of one of our stories on BoxPro on the website. But, if it takes you forever, just remember that is not the only content modality you can use. You can do podcasts, you can do video. Some people are great at just speaking, you just make sense as you talk. That's awesome. That's something that's maybe a little more challenging for me and I have to work on. Writing comes very naturally, so that's the one I'm going to tend towards. So I think that's kind of the first, is they don't have to necessarily just write. There are other forms that they can take, and they just have to they might have to just get a little more creative with that. Maybe it's doing short videos on Instagram or YouTube videos or something like that. So I think that's first. Second, if You might be able to write better than you think. I think a lot of people are very harsh critics on themselves. And I mean, if you write and then you have other people read it, whether it's your coaches or your significant other, someone who can maybe give you honest feedback, you can grow as a writer. We all can grow as a writer if we're willing to do so. So I don't think that should even stop you being like, I can't do it. No, you can learn and you can be better at it. So, but you just have to practice. Like, I'm not the writer I was anymore because I've practiced and I've written a lot more and it's gotten better. Now again, like, I just have some natural skill at that. I just do. But like, I have grown and gotten better at that. So I think that would be encouragement as well, that sometimes you just have to start. Like, even if you don't think you're good, like you're like, oh, I have nothing good to say, or I don't know how to say it. Well, have people help you, get feedback, get critiques, and be okay with those critiques. And just realize that this is another opportunity for you to grow. And realize that some members, some people that you're trying to reach, they respond best to the written word. So, or you might be best on a podcast or a video. Some people might need to read what you're saying. So I do think that's important to learn and grow in that. But that's kind of what I would say, is either look at different modalities, but also don't be afraid to just challenge yourself and grow along the way.
Yeah, I remember when I was first really getting started with content creation, it was at a time when, it was when we were first really getting the gym going, and everything was about, you got to blog every day. Got to blog every day, right. And for me, that scared the crap out of me, because I was one of those people who, even though I felt good about what I did put out, it took me an incredible amount of time to put something together that I was actually confident enough to release. So it was very difficult for me to produce content regularly, which is a big part of creating content, is not just every once in a blue moon put something out. Try to get a rhythm going, right? Create a little bit of predictability in your rhythm. And I struggled for years with that. And not until I discovered that, for me, podcasting, doing videos, or public speaking is way more my jam than sitting down and writing a paper. I'd feel 100 times more confident if someone just said, hey, can we just turn the camera on and you just go for 5 minutes, rather than me have to write 400 words. I'll do that all day. But I didn't realize that. So I was one of those people who was totally stumped by that as well. And really, it felt like I was just pushing this boulder uphill forever. And yes, for sure, the more that I did it, I definitely gained confidence and was able to become more efficient. But as you can tell with what I do now, it's almost exclusively with this, because what I realized is that because I felt more comfortable, I created better content. And because I created better content, it resonated better with my audience. So I was more likely and willing to do more of that content, which obviously then you start to gain some momentum, you start to make some progress, you start building a brand. And then actually that was what gave me the space, if you will, to work on my writing kind of slowly, because I would be able to do an interview or create a video and then just write the notes for what I talked about, which was for me a much easier process than to say, I'm just going to write a standalone article. And through that, over time, it evolved for me. But it's so familiar when someone says to me, like, I can't do it. I don't, where do I even start? I hate writing. And I'm like, dude, I hear you. That was me too. But good thing for me now, I have someone who helps me with that. So I don't have to do
I'd be like, I don't care. I love writing. You're going to write. It's amazing.
The worst.
Oh, well, I guess we'll have to agree to disagree. So.
Awesome. No, I'm just kidding. Okay. So where, could you go through some of the different types of content and kind of the pros and cons of what you're seeing maybe working better than other mediums at this point in time?
Yeah, for sure. So we've already spoken about it, written content. I think pros and cons, people are very familiar with that. It's very a usual sort of thing for people to read. We all know, most of us know how to read. If you're listening to this, you probably know how to read. I didn't say read well. I said read.
Fair enough.
But yeah, so there's that. The con is it takes time. It takes time to read. I know we found that in our stats. Like, as long as we have short articles that are snippets that give you, juicy material and 400 words, people will read it. But if it's long form, it's very unusual for someone to read a long form story anymore. I know I don't, and I love to read. It is hard for me to sit down and read a long form story on a website. So what works for written is short and sweet and to the point. Like, people people want information like this today. So the con is that you maybe can't quite get everything you want to say out in terms of the written word. Or you might have to do installments, or you might not just hold at people's attention as long, because they say what our attention span now is like 10 seconds. In video, they say you can only have clips for like 10 seconds or something, and then someone's gone. Like you have to
get their attention in the first 10 seconds or they're out.
Yeah. And so, so that's kind of the written content, pros and cons of that. You have social media, which is just overflowing with information. And that's probably a con, is that there's just so much on there. There's so much noise. It's like, how do you even get your voice heard on there? So it takes a lot of originality, a lot of creativity, it takes consistency, kind of what we were talking about, having people come back to you and just being almost predictable a little bit, in the sense of like, hey, like we're giving you stuff, but also then being original in that predictability, if that makes sense. So it's trying to like get through all that noise and get your voice heard. So, but a great pro is that, it's constantly updating, and you can do short snippets. And I mean, I get more news from my Instagram feed and more information from my Instagram feed than I do from websites now. So so that's kind of where I'm looking, or emails. Like that's another way to produce content, is to send out e-blasts, to send out e-newsletters. And I know, again, I get more news now from e-newsletters than I do from news websites or TV or anything like that. And so again, that a lot of times inboxes are flooded with emails, but I know we've seen in terms of our data that people are still opening up their emails. I know I still open mine. I love my e-newsletters that I get. I get 2 of them, and they're awesome. One gives me CrossFit updates, and then another one gives me actual news updates, which is good for me to be socially aware. But yeah, so that's been really helpful. And those are just short and sweet, kind of like with the written content, short and sweet and to the point. And I can ingest it during the red lights on my way to work, or
you're terrible.
I'm
no reading and driving, Heather.
I sit in my car and I read, and then when I have to go, I put it down. Right. I know it's bad, but yeah. So that's another form, and then you also have things like video. Video is great, but you have to do it well. And that's the same with photos. There's so much out there that, like, if it's just crap, people aren't going to watch it. People aren't going to look at it. They're going to know it's crap, because there's so much out there now, and we've seen great photography. I mean, Instagram has been phenomenal in just really pushing the photography industry forward, the videography industry forward. But yeah, so I think they have to be produced well, honestly, or have really informative information in them, kind of like this, like where we're doing this live video, so that's super informative. It's maybe not like National Geographic documentary, but
whoa! I've got feelings, Heather. This is I'm putting my best foot forward with this. All right.
To be honest. But it's high quality. Like, we're both pretty clear. We're not,
I showered this week. I cut my hair. I combed my hair today.
I don't smell bad. No. But yeah, so I think video is another one, and then you have podcasts, and podcasts have just taken off in the last few years. I mean, that's why we started a podcast at Box Pro with BoxTalk, because it was like, oh, people are really liking podcasts, and you can do it while you multitask. And I think that's what's something original about podcasts.
That's key right there, is that people can do it while they're doing other things, and that is why that is the most consumed. As far as like overall, when you stack them up, because we look at the same thing, right? We've got numerous channels as well, from our written content to our video content, live content, podcast, and just people. I mean, the feedback has been overwhelming. Whenever we put something out that's educational and video only, they're like, "Hey, man, can you put this on audio as well? Because I like to listen to podcasts when I'm, running my errands, driving to and from work." And so on. And I realized, I'm like, you're totally right. I do the same thing. And so we always try to put as much out there via podcast as well.
Yeah.
Because more people consume it.
Exactly. And it's been interesting because with BoxTalk, we haven't done tons of marketing with it. Like, there's been some, but it's not any more than anything else. And the rate that it's taken off and been listened to, and the audience that we have for that has been really quite extraordinary for, maybe the little marketing that we have done for it, but people just love it. They just want to listen because they can multitask, and all these other forms that I've said, social media, written, all of that, like you have to have focus for those. Like I can't drive and read my newsletters. I can drive and listen to a podcast though. So
exactly right.
Yeah. So those are the kind of ones that I would highlight.
Okay. Well, real quick tangent, the BoxTalk podcast, do you have some favorite episodes for people who maybe haven't checked it out yet that you can kind of use to lure them in?
Oh man. Well, there's some pretty good ones. I think one of my favorites actually has to do with the title. I got to talk with Juliet Starrett, and we chatted. I actually met her in San Francisco, and we chatted, and I've known her for a while, and she's just awesome and fun, but just kind of about her story and all of that. And she actually gives a little side story about how they got started with Mobility WOD and compiling all those videos, and how they had to actually go to porn sites and visit porn sites, because at the time the porn sites were the only ones that knew how to do video content the way that they were looking to do video content online. And
likely excuse.
Yeah, I know, right? So,
it's research, honey.
But and she kind of goes into more of that and just creation of it all. But that's just a great episode, and I really like her as a person too, so that helps. But and then I have to think off the top of my head. They're all just really good. I mean, there's a great one with Matt Scanlon that I've talked to. He was awesome on it. A lot of them have just been with box owners who are just really raw, and they're like, man, life is hard. Like, thanks for being honest. But they've been really good. I'll have to think about that one. I don't know. I've talked to so many. There's some coming out. They're with some of my friends that I've known for years, and so we just get to chat and catch up, and people get to listen to it.
Yeah, my favorite is the gym owner interviews that you guys do. I think that's really cool. It's just a very, like you said, raw glimpse into their world and what they're doing. And you guys have everyone from really well-known gym owners to gym owners that people have never heard of. You get to hear all these different stories and, what's going well for them and where their challenges are. And that's a pretty unique lens, I think, into the industry that a lot of gym owners are fascinated by, because it's, we all want to know what everyone else is doing and how it's actually going for them, because on the front, it all looks great. Gym looks good. It looks busy. You don't know what they're struggling with, or what their little secret weapon is, or what the big turning point was. And you guys do a good job of sharing that.
Oh, thank you. And I've actually been told that it's therapy for some people. So we're basically helping out everyone.
Awesome. Okay. So what are some practical exercises that the gym owners listening right now can implement to create more and better content that we have not covered so far?
Think about that one. Well, I think one thing is kind of what we talked about first is coming up with that content strategy. That would be probably a great first practical exercise step to take, is to start putting something together in terms of, okay, how do I want to tell my story? Maybe let's say this week, we won't even do a month. Let's say, how do I want to tell my story this week? And then sitting down and being like, okay, what forms do I want to use? I want to use my website, and I want to do short video, and I want to post both of those on social media. So maybe sitting down looking at Monday, okay, what do I want to do on Monday? I'm going to have my blog due on Monday. I'm going to put it up on the website. Tuesday, I'm going to post it on our social media. Wednesday, I'm going to record a live video, and then I'm going to share it on social media, and then I'll take snippets from that and share it on Thursday, all that. So I would say that probably one great practical step to take first in that content creation is come up with that strategy, because then once you have that strategy, you'll know what content to create. Once you have that calendar and that planner laid out, that's a great step. So, and I know at Peak here, for all of our different brands, for Box Pro and all of that, we just use Google. And Google's amazing.
Same here.
Google Drive is awesome. We have these content calendar spreadsheets every month. And it goes, we have the month and we have weeks in the tabs. And we basically have our different social media platforms. And we just say, this is what's being posted at this time on this day. And we do that for a whole month at a time. We send that over to our creative department. They get to create the memes for us, the different materials we need for that, which is really nice. That keeps everything on brand. And then basically the week before I'll go in and I'll just copy and paste things into our scheduling software for social media, and bada boom, bada bing. It's very easy.
Awesome.
So I basically done all this pre-work. And so I think like you can start that as a gym owner on a small level by planning it out, maybe sitting down on a Sunday and planning out your next week, or sitting down on a Monday and planning that week out. And then just kind of start to see, okay, what can I do without driving myself crazy this week, and then slowly add on as you go. Mm-hmm. So does that make sense to explain that well?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, it's very, very similar, almost identical to what we teach in our program, where we first identify, okay, well, let's pick the medium that we're going to be doing, or the mediums that we're going to use. And then we go through, we create different themes throughout the year. Once we have the themes determined, we create our day-to-day posting template. So this is like the template you just said, which is your basically week by week throughout the month. This is what happens on Monday of week 1, Tuesday, and so on. And then we get into, and then we go through the featured content pieces, right? So that's like the day-to-day posting. And then we have featured content pieces, and depending on their goals and their target audience, that's where we then determine like, what's the medium going to be? So you're going to do a weekly podcast, or weekly Facebook Live, or weekly blog post on top of your day-to-day kind of your light content. And then we have like the heavy hitter items, and all that is run through the lenses of the different themes and layers that we create for them. And we use that, and in a matter of just a couple of hours, we're able to basically lay out their framework for the year. And then it's really easy for a gym owner to do exactly what you said, which is maybe on Sunday or even the week prior, to either themselves or maybe a staff member to say, cool, here's the template for next week. Here's like what we're doing. Here's what we're working on. Here's where we are. And you can very easily then prep all of that content. You can queue it up, whether you just have it, on the desktop on your computer, or you load it into something like Hootsuite, where you can have the content kind of preloaded and ready for the week. Someone approves it, or if you did it yourself and you're the one doing it on your own, great. But that way you can basically tee up your content for the week, and that's your like core daily content. And that allows then the gym owner on a day-to-day basis, when, Kevin gets his first pull-up and Susie PRs her clean and jerk, you can just capture the real-time stuff, which when layered on top of the day-to-day posting in these featured bigger content pieces, you have a home run. And even if you're like a one-man or one-woman show, you look like you have a whole content team, like putting all this together, because it all comes together with the themes, and, it creates a rhythm, it creates consistency, and it has that mix between like the brand content, which is like that planned stuff, and then the stuff that's happening in real time, like who left their plates out, every comment gets if so-and-so has to do a burpee or whatever. That's the fun day-to-day stuff that like really keeps people like paying attention, because that's a look into their community and their culture, right? Whether you were there for that class or not. And then you're mixing in that other stuff. So it's kind of like the day-to-day, the planned, and then that like primo content bit that you can do on a weekly basis or whatever works for them. It tends to work like gangbusters, because most gyms aren't struggling with their product, right? Most gym owners are so passionate about movement, about coaching, their communities are awesome, but the voice is missing, that narrative is missing. And by simply putting a framework in place and just rinse and repeat, just follow the framework, you can start with just tiny snippets and short videos, and as you get better and more confident, they become longer articles or longer videos or better produced. But like you said, just start, create a rhythm, stick to the rhythm, and refine it, and take the feedback and the observations that you make of, hey, that Tuesdays are really popular, that style works, that Thursday style, I'm going to tweak that in the template. And in a very short amount of time, you can completely re-energize a brand, and it comes to life. And when it comes to life, believe it or not, your content strategy makes an impact on your retention. It makes an impact on your lead flow. And for anyone who's wanting to do any sort of advertising on social media, like, buckle up for the bad news. If you're not doing daily content that is relevant, that people are interested in engaging in, your algorithm scoring, your relevancy scoring is going to be low. So when you run ads, it's going to cost you way more to get them in front of the people that you want to see it, and so on. So it makes everything harder if you don't do it. So by simply implementing a good daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly, like with, where there's a plan in mind, content strategy, the impact can be enormous. And this doesn't cost money. It just takes a little bit of time and energy for you to do. Or if you're someone who's like, look, I can't do that, make someone on your team do it. It has to happen one way or the other. It doesn't have to just be the owner who's sitting there doing this. Eventually you can put good people in place who, you can identify the voice of the business, the brand. You can get into, outlining, these are the kinds of words and things that we say. Here's the avatar we're speaking to. And you can get really, laser focused on how to do this and have someone else execute, but get it done. It just makes such a difference and brings the brand to life, increases lead flow, retention, engagement, everything.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. Consistency is everything. Posting, keeping up that story. Like, there's so much being thrown at people today. Unless they hear your story continuously in different ways, they're never going to remember it. It's never, and the more they hear it, exactly. And the more they hear it, it's going to stick. And then, they always say, like, it can take up to 18 months for somebody to walk into your gym. And so, but if you keep hitting them with your story and then they finally are like, oh, I need to do something about my life and my fitness and my health, and then your story will come to mind. It's kind of like we're all told fairy tales and certain stories growing up that we could recall like that because we have been told them over and over again. Mm-hmm. And we understand the value to them or the deeper meaning lesson or the deeper meaning or the lessons that were learned. So, and those we can just recall because they were told and they were told consistently and they had a message and an important message to get across. So.
Yep. And one of the biggest pieces of feedback we hear from gym owners who implement a regular content strategy is that when they start getting leads in the door, right? And this takes a little while for it to build up, 3, 6, 9 months, whatever. But what starts to happen is that the people who start showing up for your intros and inquiring start saying things like, I feel like I already know you. I feel like, I've been following your stuff for months or for years. And if that isn't, a testament to how powerful this is, that someone shows up that you've never met before and they're like, I've been following your stuff forever, Heather, I think you're awesome. That is so powerful and should only, put more gas on the fire for, those who are thinking about like, should I be doing this or how important is this? It will help you acquire more people more easily because you have someone who's there because your voice, your style, your brand is resonating with them to the point to where they want to be a part of it. And what else could you ask for, right? We want culture fits. We don't just want any random, person off the street. We want that ideal client, that person who's picking up what we're putting down, likes my style. They're interested in what I have to say. So that makes it easier for me to just be myself and therefore enjoy my process. It's a win-win-win, right? So Awesome. Well, question I like to ask all of our guests, Heather, in one sentence, if you could give one piece of advice to a gym owner, what would it be?
I think to the gym owners out there, you need to know that your knowledge and your expertise is valuable, and you need to own that. You have value, what you know has value, and you just need to use it.
Love it. Great advice. Where can people find more about you, Heather, and Box Pro and BoxTalk and all the things you're doing?
Google Box Pro. Yeah, no, for sure. So you can actually find us on boxpromag.com. We're also on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. You can find us on all those platforms under Box Pro Mag. And we are there constantly posting all the time because we know the value of consistent social presence. So if they want to know more about us, and then our podcast is also on boxpromag.com. They can check us out, or you can find us on iTunes and SoundCloud with that as well.
Awesome. And you guys, as of recently, you guys really transitioned to being exclusively digital. So all the content that you guys used to produce in print is now available for free simply by subscribing on your guys' site, right?
Yep, go to our site. Up top on the left, you'll see a little subscribe button. You hit that, and you can subscribe to our list, and we'll send you weekly newsletters about all the content we've been posting, the new stories that are up, and you don't want to miss that. There's been some really good stuff on there lately, or for the past 5 years, if I do say so myself. And so that's great too. And you can also, subscribe to our social channels as well. But yes, please go and subscribe so you don't miss anything, because we are here for the gym owner and we want you guys to thrive.
Awesome. Well, Heather, I'm a loyal subscriber. I love what you guys do. Thanks for everything that you guys do for our community. And thank you for being on the show with us today.
Thanks, Marcus. Thanks for having me. It's been great. So hopefully there's been benefit to our audience.
Most definitely. I don't doubt that for a second. Awesome. And I want to thank all of you motivated gym owners out there for joining us today as well. If you are interested in getting free access to our totally awesome private Facebook group for gym owners, type the word join in the comments below so you can get access right away. And also, if you'd like to watch this show live, you can join the conversation in real time every Friday at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, right here on the Gymwright Facebook page. Thanks again for your support. Now get out there and build something that matters. We'll see you all again next week. Bye-bye.